So LeBron's just gonna ride it out with this group?
When Golden State called asking about LeBron, Rich Paul, his agent, silenced all that.
Yes.
Your point is excellent. His actions say, I want to be a Laker.
The Golden State Warriors are primed to swing a huge trade before the NBA trade deadline. Now, this isn't a dire trade to make this team a playoff contender. This is a team that could potentially be the best team in the Western Conference if they swing the right trade for themselves. Now, there are multiple different avenues that the Warriors can go for here. They could trade for Jimmy Butler. They're linked to LeBron James, but those are not the only candidates that they have on their radar. So in this video, we're going to be discussing the huge blockbuster trade that the Golden State Warriors have cooking up. Before we get to the content, we're launching a brand new venture called TheFlightMike TV. This is all of the commentary that doesn't pertain to sports. For instance, if you want to watch me cover the rise and fall of Mr. Beast, or maybe even the rise and fall of Conor McGregor, I would do it on that channel. I'll leave a link to it in the description down below if you guys want to check us out. And now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. So we're pretty much being given free money again. You remember on Thanksgiving when Tyreek Hill only needed 1 receiving yard, and then we just need to make 1 correct prediction to 3x our money, and we hit on Thanksgiving, and now all Patrick Mahomes needs is 1 passing yard versus the Cleveland Browns. So we only need to make 1 prediction to 3x our money again. To take advantage of this opportunity, click the link in the description down below, or use my promo code microphone when you sign up for Prize Picks to get a free $50 when you make a play of $5 or more. Now, unfortunately, I already 3x'd my money. Yeah, I paired Patrick Mahomes with Josh Allen throwing for over 242 passing yards versus the LA Rams, and could you blame me? The Rams are one of the worst passing defenses in the entire league, and I was certain this was gonna hit. Now, I posted this pick onto my Instagram story, so if you followed me on Instagram, you would have seen that pick, but if you didn't, don't worry. I still make plenty of picks on a daily basis for you to pair the Patrick Mahomes free square with another one of my favorite picks for this upcoming weekend, and I have a pretty good track record of hitting whenever we have a free square. So make sure you use my promo code microphone when you sign up for Prize Picks to get a free $50 when you make a play of $5 or more, and hurry up and sign up before they move the lines because we want to take advantage of the odds we have. And thank you, Prize Picks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? The Golden State Warriors went through a major change in the offseason, clearly after they lost one of their franchise cornerstones in Klay Thompson. And ever since rumors came out that Klay Thompson was going to leave, this team was star hunting for the most part. Originally, they had their sights set on Paul George, but for some reason, the Los Angeles Clippers preferred to let Paul George walk away for nothing and sign with the Philadelphia 76ers, as opposed to getting a valuable first-round pick from the Golden State Warriors or a young role player like Moses Moody, for instance. And Draymond Green told us about this in his podcast.
I mean, there were other free agency moves, and Paul George is the biggest of the summer. He is planning to sign a 4-year deal with the 76ers. Also a little salty about that because Paul George was going to come to the Warriors, and we wanted Paul George to come to the Warriors. For us to get Paul George, it would have taken a sign and trade, and the Clippers didn't really want to play ball. Didn't really want to help him get to where he wanted to go, and so in turn, they get nothing back. And, you know, whereas you could have gotten something back for Paul George walking, they get absolutely nothing back. So that didn't quite pan out for us, which would have been nice.
Now, there are rumors about why this didn't happen. Apparently, the Golden State Warriors didn't want to give up Jonathan Kuminga for Paul George, which is unique because Jonathan Kuminga is currently in a contract year, and the Warriors and Kuminga haven't agreed to terms on a contract extension, but he's a restricted free agent, which means the Warriors can match any offer that he receives. But once they were out on Paul George, they pivoted to Lauri Markkanen.
One player that a number of teams have tried to target, Lauri Markkanen of the Utah Jazz. Utah's not sure it wants to trade him, but they have to listen. They've been listening, and a lot of the teams who lost out on Mikal Bridges from Brooklyn have transferred over to trying to see if they can land Lauri Markkanen out of Utah. Golden State is one of those teams.
But alas, that didn't work out either. Lauri Markkanen wanted to stay on the Utah Jazz, and I can't really blame him because he's been playing like a star on the Utah Jazz and got paid like a star with the Utah Jazz. And it was unlikely that he would have the same exact role with the Golden State Warriors. You might even see him revert to his Cleveland Cavaliers form or his Chicago Bulls form, but obviously it would maximize his opportunity to win a championship. But to the Golden State Warriors' credit, they played the offseason out remarkably. In an offseason that could have potentially crippled them, the Warriors agreed to a sign-and trade to send Klay Thompson to the Dallas Mavericks. Then they went out and signed DeAnthony Melton to a mid-level exception. They acquired Kyle Anderson, and probably my favorite move of all is they were able to add Buddy Hield. So far, Buddy Hield has been an improvement over Klay Thompson, and there's no question about it. He's shooting 43% from 3 this year, and he's averaging 7.6 3-point attempts per game. It's way less dramatic, and he complements Steph Curry perfectly. But that's not the only thing the Golden State Warriors have going for themselves. They recently made a significant decision to bench Draymond Green in favor of Jonathan Kuminga. It was a shocking decision that I honestly felt like was inevitable eventually, and I'm glad that Draymond Green is taking it with grace, because we know that Draymond Green has a history of not necessarily taking things well with his teammates. Look at how Draymond Green decided to handle that decision.
Coach just called him. He said it's something he was thinking about, and he wanted to know if I was okay with it. Of course I'm okay with it. I have been one of JK's biggest fans since he's been here. And so if he has an opportunity to start, you can't be hypocritical. And they're like, yo, we want him to start, but it'll be for you. And you can't be like, it's not for me. Like, that don't work. Like, I'm a fan of his. I want to see him do well. So if his opportunity goes through me, then it is what it is. That's his opportunity, and he earned the opportunity. That was kind of my rationale. He played extremely well last night. You want to give that another look, or 2 or 3 or 4, or however long. If it works, then continue with it. And so, yeah, that's kind of my rationale for me.
Jonathan Kuminga has been spectacular ever since being inserted into the starting lineup, scoring 33 points off of 13 of 22 shooting versus the Houston Rockets, and the Warriors have won 2 of the 3 games that he was in the starting lineup, only losing to the Minnesota Timberwolves. It was clearly the right decision to make because you really needed to figure out whether or not you wanted to build around Jonathan Kuminga for the foreseeable future, considering that he is a restricted free agent this offseason. And so far this year, he's more or less averaged the same numbers as he did last year, so the uptick in minutes should be remarkable for evaluating whether or not you truly could build around him for the foreseeable future. Many members of the Golden State Warriors think that Jonathan Kuminga could be a Giannis Antetokounmpo type of player, and although I'm not necessarily a huge fan of dubbing someone the next Giannis, I could see why the parallels exist, primarily due to Kuminga's frame and the way he plays the game of basketball. Now, with all this being said, the Golden State Warriors are still very interested in making a trade. The reason for this is because Steph Curry is still playing out of his mind. We always talk about how LeBron James has been able to extend his career to his late 30s, although recently he's been hitting a bit of a cold streak, which we made a separate video on if you guys want to check it out. I'll leave it in the end screen. Steph Curry has more or less had the same thing going on for him, averaging 23 points per game, shooting 42% from beyond the arc, while averaging 10 3-point attempts per game. And whenever you have a Hall of Famer on your team like Steph Curry and the greatest shooter of all time, you want to do everything you possibly can to maximize your championship window, even if that does mean you need to make some difficult decisions like moving on from Klay Thompson, benching Draymond Green, or swinging a huge trade and mortgaging a little bit of your future in order to maximize the present. Because you don't know what the future is going to hold for the Golden State Warriors. There's no guarantee that the draft picks that they hold are going to turn into superstars. You don't even know if it's going to be in a good draft or not. With that being said, they're prime candidates to swing a huge trade for a star player because they currently own all of their draft picks. And one can assume that by the 2027 season, their first round pick would be a relatively high pick, because at that point, Steph Curry would be 39 years old. So with that being said, there are multiple players that the Golden State Warriors are in on. Let's start with one that you guys are very familiar with, Jimmy Butler. We're going to probably make a separate video on Jimmy Butler's situation, but the Miami Heat are open to listening to trade offers for Jimmy Butler. Butler is open to playing for the Dallas Mavericks, the Houston Rockets, and the Golden State Warriors. The Heat are open to listening to offers for Butler, Butler and making a deal if the proposal's right. League sources told ESPN, and Butler's agent Bernie Lee has indicated in league circles that Butler is open to destinations such as two of the Texas teams like the Houston Rockets and the Dallas Mavericks and the Golden State Warriors. Butler is a native of Houston, Texas. Above all, he's believed to prefer a win-now title contender in any trade. All three of these teams would be elevated in a Jimmy Butler trade, but it's really difficult to determine what Jimmy Butler's value currently is. After all, fans are automatically speculating that the Houston Rockets would automatically decide to offer Jalen Green and a couple of draft picks in a trade for the 35-year-old Jimmy Butler. Bear in mind, Jimmy Butler's contract expires in the offseason. There's a reason why the Miami Heat want to move him, and that's because they know that there's a good chance that Jimmy Butler isn't going to re-sign with them. Jimmy is having a remarkable season, despite being 35 years old. His field goal percentage has shot up by 6% to 56%. That's a career high for him. He's still averaging the same amount of field goals per game, and he's averaging 19 points per game. The Miami Heat are also currently in 5th place in the Eastern Conference, and they have a reputation of making noise whenever they're fully healthy in the playoffs. And I don't think it'll take that much to get Jimmy Butler, but I do think it may be problematic trying to match salary in order to acquire Jimmy Butler. And in this case, in order to acquire Jimmy Butler, I'd assume that the Warriors would have to part with Andrew Wiggins, DeAnthony Melton, Moses Moody, and a future draft pick. And that draft pick would be a first or a second round pick depending on the demand for Jimmy Butler. But I can't imagine teams overpaying for a player that might be on a contract year who already has left a contending team before after being traded to them during the trade deadline. But you guys are familiar with the trade rumors involving Jimmy Butler potentially getting traded to the Golden State Warriors. We made videos on this before. And this brings us to the biggest rumor that you guys have probably heard recently, and that's the fact that the Golden State Warriors are interested in trading for LeBron James. Yeah, this is a sequel that nobody asked for. It's literally like Gladiator 2. We didn't need a Gladiator 2. Gladiator 1 was just fine, and LeBron to the Warriors rumor part 1 was just fine, and we moved on from it. But the storyline's a little bit different this time. And to be honest, it makes a lot more sense than Gladiator 2. You see, the Los Angeles Lakers haven't gotten off to the best start this year. This is despite them making several moves in the offseason to appease LeBron James. I always bring up the playoff game that LeBron James magically appeared at halftime last year when he showed up to Quicken Loans Arena and said hi to everybody in the middle of the game and made sure everybody saw that he was there, and that he was trying to send a message to the Los Angeles Lakers. One being that he wanted a contract extension and he wanted to get paid well. Two being that he wanted the Lakers to hire his choice of head coach. Three being he wanted the Lakers to improve the roster around him, and finally to draft Bronny James. And to be honest, the Lakers did all of those things. They hired JJ Redick, who apparently LeBron had nothing to do with. But honestly, you can't truly believe that, right? I mean, these two had a podcast together. Clearly, LeBron wanted JJ Redick as the head coach. And if you're dumb enough to believe that LeBron had nothing to do with that, then you're probably dumb enough to believe JJ Redick when he said this about Bronny.
Rob and I did not give Bronny anything. Bronny has earned this. Bronny has earned this through hard work.
With that being said, the Lakers essentially bent over backwards to bring back LeBron James for another year. LeBron even tried to take a pay cut in order to return to the Lakers, but the Lakers weren't able to convince anyone to join him. And so far, they've had a very mixed bag to start out the season. Don't get me wrong, there are players that are doing absolutely nothing on this roster, like Gabe Vincent, for instance. We're never going to see Miami Heat Gabe Vincent on the Lakers. As it stands, the Lakers are currently 13-11. And if you take a look at the teams above them and below them, you can tell that this team isn't going to be making the play-in at all. At the top of the Western Conference, you have the OKC Thunder at number 1. They're the best defensive team in the NBA. They don't have Chet Holmgren even. On top of that, this team has enough assets to swing a huge trade if they want to, but they probably won't. Then you have the Memphis Grizzlies, who are dominant so long as Ja Morant is at full strength. Then you have the Houston Rockets, the Dallas Mavericks, the Golden State Warriors, who we've talked about extensively in this video, the Los Angeles Clippers without Kawhi Leonard are doing better than the Lakers, then the Denver Nuggets, who are starting to figure it out. You have the Lakers at number 8, the Timberwolves, who have been struggling, and we have a separate video on that. But then you have the Phoenix Suns, who have been struggling without Kevin Durant. They're 1-9 without him. They're bound to be better once Kevin Durant comes back. And then the San Antonio Spurs at 11. I would not be shocked if multiple teams leapfrog the Lakers throughout the season. And the fact that LeBron James has not been playing well recently can only serve as a testament to this. So that's resulting in some fans saying that maybe LeBron James decides to join the Golden State Warriors. And even Kendrick Perkins says that this could happen.
My sources tell me that if LeBron James at any point comes out and says that he wants to be traded or he wants to entertain it, they're going to entertain it. No, it ain't no holding him back. Meaning, when Golden State called asking about LeBron, Rich Paul, his agent, silenced all that.
Yes.
If LeBron and they get to this conversation again, I'm hearing Rich Paul ain't getting it.
Well, but there's so many logistical issues with this, and I know what we're immediately thinking.
But Mike, what about Bronny? The Lakers drafted Bronny in the second round. His dad is just gonna leave him in LA?
Well, according to Anthony Irwin, Bronny is to go wherever LeBron James goes. They're a package deal. So let's just say LeBron James decides to make all these power moves in the offseason, and he decides to leave. We need to then discuss how the Lakers could trade LeBron James. First, a trade cannot go down until December 14th because LeBron just recently signed a 2-year, $100 million contract with the Los Angeles Lakers. Once that's aside, you need to figure out how to match salary. In order to really match salary with LeBron James, the Golden State Warriors would have to give up Andrew Wiggins and Draymond Green, which I don't really think is very likely. I would say they probably have to give up Andrew Wiggins, DeAnthony Melton, and Kyle Anderson to match salary with the Los Angeles Lakers in order to get LeBron James and Bronny James. I'm sure they would give up like a second-round pick or a protected first-round pick in this trade. Could it happen? I mean, I just don't really see a reason for it. I mean, yeah, it's LeBron James, and don't get me wrong, he's incredible, even though he's been slipping recently. He's entering his age 40 season, and out of the respect the Lakers have for LeBron, if he does want to leave, then they would trade him. Do I think it's something that LeBron James would do? I'm not necessarily sure. There's just so much going on for the Los Angeles Lakers and LeBron James currently outside of them trying to contend. A lot of it has to do with Bronny and their unique G League plan for him. And Brian Windhorst himself says this is very unlikely to happen.
Any trade that the Warriors make is going to be complicated. They have only $500,000 that they're allowed to spend more in this season. Any trade that they make, they really can't take on more money. It's possible if LeBron wanted it. Also, LeBron has a no-trade clause. I would just say that twice in the last 10 months, LeBron has had an opportunity to leave the Lakers, but LeBron has repeatedly made it clear he wants to be a Laker, and if that's the case, there's nothing really to talk about.
It's not guessing or projecting. He's in it. They're not any good. So LeBron's just going to ride it out with this group?
Your point is excellent. His actions say, I want to be a Laker.
But we wouldn't be doing our jobs right if we got out of La La Land and actually discussed a trade that is most likely to happen. You see, the Warriors aren't playing NBA 2K here, ladies and gentlemen. They're trying to improve their team to potentially win a championship, and probably the most likely trade for this team to make, that makes the most sense, is trading for a high-end role player that fits into their offense seamlessly. They don't need a ball-dominant point forward because they have Jonathan Kuminga and Draymond Green essentially filling out those roles. But they would love to bring in a two-way forward/guard that could practically guard each and every position. And in this case, the Brooklyn Nets are very interested in trading such a player. The Nets have received trade interest and opened exploratory conversations around forwards Cam Johnson and Dorian Finney-Smith and guard Dennis Schroeder. The Warriors are among the teams that have expressed interest in those three players, sources said. All three players would fit into the Golden State Warriors seamlessly, but obviously the top two contenders here would be Dorian Finney-Smith, who is a lights-out three-point shooter, shooting 43% from three this year, and has proven to be a solid defender as well, entering his age 31 season. Then you have the younger Cam Johnson, a player that is currently in his age 28 season, has a 4.3 box plus minus, and also has been shooting 43% from three. I would say it's much more likely that the Golden State Warriors trade for one or both of these forwards, as opposed to bringing in a 40-year-old LeBron James, who would only be able to help them for the next year or two before potentially retiring. But let me know in the comment section down below, what do you guys think about all this? Which one of these trades do you think is most likely for the Warriors to make? I'd like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.